Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Some time too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair some time declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou own'st, nor shall death brag thou wander'st in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou grow'st. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Ah, yes, pleasing to the ear it is to hear the sounds of a well-spoken poem, and no poem could be more well-spoken than the lines of a sonnet. Something about their flowing rhythm and the rhyme scheme, it just stirs something deep within the cockles of my heart. But I digress. Enough about my opinions. Let's dive in and learn, shall we? A sonnet is a type of poem that often deals with topics like love, beauty and desire, and our fleeting mortality. Its place of origin, 13th century Italy. At the Sicilian school in the court of Emperor Frederick II, a group of well-learned southern Italian and Tuscan poets are accredited for inventing two types of poem, the first being the calzone. No, excuse me. That's not right at all. The canzone, yes, the canzone. And of course, the sonnet. In the 14th century, Francesco Petrarch, an acclaimed scholar and poet, reworked and popularized the sonnet, writing 317 of them dedicated solely to his beloved in the canzoniere. Creepy and obsessive? Maybe. Romantic? You're damn right. Because of his prevalent use of the form, the first of a sonnet's two types was aptly named the Italian sonnet, or, for the less humble, the Petrarchan sonnet. As the sonnet made its way throughout Europe, it was eventually popularized in England in the 16th century by poet Sir Thomas Wyatt and playwright William Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare would build off the works of Petrarch and develop his own brand of sonnet, the Shakespearean sonnet, which has become the most popular version of the poetic form. But what is a sonnet, I assume you ask? Well, today you're going to find out in Sonnets, a very brief analysis. Let us first break down the fundamentals of all sonnets. They all have a speaker who is addressing someone or something that is not actually there. This is known as apostrophe. All sonnets also have 14 lines. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And they follow iambic pentameter. But wait, what the heck is an iambic pentameter? That, my friend, is an interesting question that has plagued high schoolers and college students alike. First, let's talk about what meter is. Meter is the metrical rhythm in a poem that is dictated by the number of syllables in a line. Each syllable is known as a foot. Let's take pentameter, for example, which means that a line has 10 syllables. Shall, I, come, pair, the, to, a, some, mers, day. See? 10 syllables. Now, an iamb is a part of meter that tells the reader where to put the stresses when they speak the syllable out loud. Iambs specifically follow an unstressed, stressed pattern. But what does that mean? How do you know when to stress or unstress a syllable? Well, luckily, English speakers tend to naturally speak in iambs already. What would you say? Give me a glass of water, or give me a glass of water. Or if you're from Baltimore, you'd say, give me a glass of water. That was a joke. Well, now that we know the basic structure of all sonnets, let's discuss the differences between the two forms. The Petrarchan sonnet. To me, one of the most striking features of a sonnet is its rhyme scheme. A rhyme scheme consists of end rhyme, which is words that rhyme at the end of a line in a specific pattern. There are two types of rhyme scheme in a traditional Petrarchan sonnet: A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, E, C, D, E, or A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, C, C, D, C. Let's take a look at Petrarch's sonnet number 2 and see what kind of rhyme scheme it is by looking at the last words of each line and marking them with the appropriate letter. Incline, sigh, minstrelsy, divine, mine, high, die, design, sound, heaven, well, wound, given, dwell. So as we can see, this sonnet follows the first rhyme scheme. The first part of a Petrarchan sonnet is comprised of 8 lines called the octave. The octave is where the speaker presents and develops a conflict. Let's continue to observe Petrarch's sonnet number 2 and see how this plays out. When love doth those sweet eyes to earth incline, and weaves those wandering notes into a sigh, with his own touch and leads a minstrelsy, clear-voiced and pure, angelic and divine, he makes sweet havoc in this heart of mine, and to my thoughts brings transformation high, so that I say, my time has come to die, if fate so blessed a death for me design. In these first 8 lines, we have a speaker who is in love with the earth. Their conflict is that they will have to die, though, and this wreaks havoc on his heart. Following the octave is the sestet, the last 6 lines of the poem. The sestet is broken up into 2 parts, the volta and what I am going to call the resolution. The volta is usually the first 2 lines of the sestet and serves as a turn or shift in tone that is strikingly different than in the octave. It usually questions the issue at hand. The final lines of the sestet seek to resolve the issues presented in the octave. Let's see how this plays out in the second half of Plutarch's sonnet number 2. But to my soul, thus steeped in joy, the sound brings such a wish to keep that present heaven. It holds my spirit back to earth as well, and thus I live, and thus is loosed and wound the thread of life which unto me was given by this sole siren who with us doth dwell. Here we see that the volta begins with the but, indicating that, despite the speaker's sadness about death, there is still the positive fact that he is alive right now, and that this sole siren, known as love, is what makes him feel alive. Now that we have analyzed a Petrarchan sonnet, it's time to analyze the Shakespearean sonnet. A Shakespearean sonnet only has one type of rhyme scheme: AB, AB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. Very different compared to the rhyming in Petrarch's work. Let's look at the end rhyme in Sonnet 18 to understand what this rhyme scheme looks like. Day, temperate, May, date, shines, dimmed, declines, untrimmed, fade, ost, shade, grossed, see, thee. Its lines are also broken up differently as well. A Shakespearean sonnet starts with 3 quatrains, or 4-lined stanzas. Much like the octave in a Petrarchan sonnet, the poet will establish the theme or problem they are facing throughout these 3 quatrains. See here in Shakespearean Sonnet 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderst in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growst. In these 3 quatrains, Shakespeare describes the beauty of his love, but is disheartened by the fact that she will one day grow old and die. Much like the sestet in a Petrarchan sonnet, the last 2 lines of the Shakespearean sonnet, called the couplet, resolves the problem. Here the lines are, so long as men can breathe, or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Despite the mortality of his lover, Shakespeare's love is immortalized in memories, whether that be a painting or this poem that we are reading right now. Well, I think this orange has been well juiced, so I'm going to wrap up this lesson with this closing statement. Even though the sonnet has a rigid form, you don't have to follow it. Even some of Shakespeare's sonnets have different meters and line lengths. So find a way to personalize your own sonnet and make it your own. This is Damien Ramel, signing off.